You're looking at your bank account on a Sunday evening trying to figure out where your money went this month. You didn't buy anything big, no major purchases, no expensive weekend trips. You were actually pretty careful, but somehow you're still $200 short of where you thought you'd be. So you start scrolling through your transactions: $4 for coffee, $7 for lunch, $12 for delivery because you were too tired to cook, $3 for a snack at the gas station, $5 for an app you used once, $6 for another coffee. And suddenly, you realize you've made 43 transactions under $10 this month, and they add up to way more than the one big purchase you spent 30 minutes researching and agonizing over. My name is Minted Finance, and I spend way too much time thinking about how the smallest financial decisions have the biggest impact on whether you build wealth or stay broke. If you're someone who's careful about big purchases but still can't figure out why money keeps disappearing from your account, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, because what I'm about to show you is going to completely change how you think about every small purchase for the rest of your life. So let's talk about small purchases: the $5 coffees, the $10 lunches, the $3 snacks, the $8 subscriptions, the stuff that feels too insignificant to worry about. Because here's the thing, these purchases don't feel like they matter. Your brain literally doesn't register them as real spending. You're not making a conscious financial decision when you buy a $5 coffee. You're just getting coffee. But these non-decisions are quietly controlling your entire financial life. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have a spending problem with big purchases. Most people are actually pretty good at big purchase decisions. You research before buying a laptop, you compare prices before buying a TV, you think carefully before booking a vacation. Your rational brain is engaged for big purchases, but small purchases, they bypass your rational brain entirely. They happen on autopilot, and autopilot is expensive. Let me show you the math, because once you see what small purchases are actually costing you, you're going to look at that $5 coffee very differently. Let's say you buy coffee on your way to work. $5, 5 days a week. That's $25 a week. Doesn't sound crazy, right? But that's $100 a month, $1,200 a year. Over 10 years, that's $12,000. But wait, if you had invested that $1,200 a year at a conservative 7% return, after 10 years, you'd have over $17,000. You didn't just spend $12,000 on coffee, you spent $17,000 in lost wealth building. Now look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Minted Finance, it's just coffee. Everyone needs coffee. You can't expect me to never buy coffee. And you're right, I'm not saying never buy coffee. I'm saying you need to understand what that coffee is actually costing you, because your brain treats it like a $5 decision, but it's not. It's a $17,000 decision spread out over time, and you're making dozens of these decisions every week without thinking about them. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about the total amount, it's about what small purchases represent psychologically. Every time you make a small purchase without thinking about it, you're training your brain that spending money is automatic, not intentional. You're building a habit of unconscious consumption. And that habit doesn't just apply to coffee, it applies to everything: lunch, snacks, convenience items, impulse buys, subscriptions. Each small purchase reinforces the pattern. Think about it like this. You would never walk into a store and buy $17,000 worth of coffee all at once. That would feel insane. Your rational brain would shut that down immediately. But when you buy it $5 at a time over 10 years, your brain never engages. You never feel the pain of the purchase. You never evaluate whether it's worth it. You just keep doing it because it's what you do. That's the danger of small purchases. They're invisible to your conscious decision-making process. Now, you might be thinking, but Minted Finance, I work hard. I deserve to treat myself to small things. And absolutely, you do. But here's what most people don't realize. When you tell yourself you deserve something, you're using the same psychological justification for a $5 purchase that someone else might use for a $50 purchase or a $500 purchase. The word deserve bypasses rational evaluation. It makes you feel entitled to the purchase without actually thinking about whether it aligns with your goals. Here's the psychology part that nobody talks about. Small purchases feel good in a way that big purchases don't. When you buy something expensive, you feel the pain of parting with that money. Economists call this pain of paying, and it's an important break on spending. But small purchases are priced specifically to avoid triggering that pain response. $5 doesn't hurt. Your brain barely registers it, so you get the dopamine hit of buying something without the painful feedback that tells you to stop. Companies know this. They've spent billions figuring out the exact price points that maximize sales by staying under your pain threshold. That's why so much of modern retail is designed around small, frequent purchases rather than occasional big ones. A coffee shop doesn't want you to buy $100 worth of coffee once a month. They want you to buy $5 worth 20 times a month because you'll actually spend more that way and you won't feel like you're overspending. Let me give you some real examples of how this plays out. You're at Target for laundry detergent. That's the one thing you came for. But while you're there, you grab a candle that's on sale for $8. You get a snack from the checkout lane for $3. You see a phone charger cable for $7 and figure you could use a backup. You walk out having spent $18 on stuff you didn't plan to buy. Your brain rationalizes this as, well, I needed the detergent anyway, and everything else was cheap. But here's what most people don't realize. If those 3 impulse purchases happen once a week, that's $72 a month, $784 a year, on stuff you didn't know you needed until you saw it, on stuff that probably isn't adding meaningful value to your life, on stuff that's quietly draining your ability to save for things you actually care about. Or think about food delivery. You're tired after work and don't feel like cooking. You open the app and order something for $25 including fees and tip. That's not a crazy amount for dinner, except you do this twice a week. That's $200 a month, $2,400 a year. If you had meal prepped on Sunday, each of those meals would have cost you maybe $6. The convenience of not cooking is costing you about $1,200 a year. Over a decade invested, that's over $17,000 again. Now here's where it really gets interesting. The problem isn't that any individual small purchase is bad. It's that small purchases compound just like investments do, except in reverse. One $5 coffee doesn't matter. One $8 candle doesn't matter. One $25 delivery order doesn't matter. But 50 small purchases a month? That matters. That's controlling your finances whether you realize it or not. Here's what most people don't realize. You probably spend more time thinking about one big purchase than you do thinking about hundreds of small purchases combined. You'll research a $400 TV for hours. You'll read reviews, compare prices, watch YouTube videos, agonize over whether you really need it. But you'll make $400 worth of small purchases in a month without a single conscious thought, which means the spending that you're not thinking about is having more impact on your finances than the spending you are thinking about. Now look, let me show you just how much small purchases are controlling your ability to build wealth. According to studies on consumer spending, the average American makes about 300 small purchases a year under $20. Let's say the average is $8. That's $2,400 a year in small purchases. Now, some of those are necessary. You need food, you need gas, you need basic supplies. But research suggests that about 40% of small purchases are discretionary, things you didn't plan to buy, things you didn't need, things that were impulse buys. Subscriptions. 40% of $2,400 is $960. Let's round to $1,000. That's $1,000 a year that you're spending on small impulse purchases without thinking about it. Over 30 years, if you just eliminated those purchases and invested the money instead, at 7% annual return, you'd have over $94,000. $94,000. That's a down payment on a house. That's early retirement. That's financial security. But instead, it's going to coffee and snacks and impulse items that you won't even remember buying 6 months from now. But here's the thing that frustrates me the most. When people talk about cutting expenses, they always focus on the big stuff. Cut cable, find a cheaper car, move to a cheaper apartment. And sure, those things matter if you're overspending in those categories. But for most people, the biggest opportunity for savings is in small purchases, because you're already careful with big purchases. You already think about those. It's the stuff you're not thinking about that's killing you. Now, you might be thinking, but Minted Finance, life is short. I don't want to obsess over every $5 purchase. And I get it. I'm not saying you should feel guilty every time you buy coffee. I'm saying you should be conscious about it. You should know what it's costing you. You should make the decision intentionally instead of automatically. Because right now, you're not deciding to buy coffee. You're just buying it because that's what you do. And unconscious spending is the enemy of wealth building. Let me give you a framework for thinking about small purchases differently. Before you make any purchase under $20, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, did I plan to buy this or am I deciding in the moment? 2, will I remember this a week from now? 3, if I had to work an extra hour to pay for this, would I still buy it? These 3 questions take about 5 seconds to run through in your head, but they'll eliminate probably 60% of your unconscious small purchases. Here's the psychology behind why this works. The first question makes you aware of whether you're making a planned purchase or an impulse purchase. Planned purchases are usually fine. Impulse purchases are where the money drain happens. The second question makes you evaluate the lasting value of the purchase. If you won't remember it next week, it's probably not adding meaningful value to your life. The third question reframes the cost in terms of time instead of money. $5 sounds cheap. 30 minutes of work sounds expensive. Same cost, different frame, different decision. Let me show you some action steps because knowing this doesn't help unless you change your behavior. First, track every purchase under $20 for 1 month. Don't change your behavior, just track it. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, use a notebook. I don't care. Just write down every small purchase you make and categorize it as either planned or impulse. At the end of the month, add up the impulse purchases. That number is going to shock you.